Hi there, welcome to Long Distance Review, and on this week's episode I'm going to look at the new album from Trivium entitled What the Dead Men Say. A little bit of history with Trivium because I think it's very important to look at their career trajectory before we start looking at this album. They were formed back in 1999 and they're from Florida, and they were signed when they were a very, very young band. They were signed in 2004 to Roadrunner Records, just off the back of their debut release From Ember to Inferno. And I think at this time, in 2004, I think Matt Heafy must have been about 18. I think the band were all in their late teens. So they were a very, very young band. And they were sort of hailed, especially off the back of their debut release, Ascendancy, in 2005, they were hailed as the next big heavy metal band. They were hailed as the next Metallica, the next Iron Maiden. And there was a lot of goodwill behind them, but also a lot of pressure behind them to be this next big metal band. And I think because of this, their career has been a bit of a rollercoaster, a bit of missteps every now and again, misguided sometimes. I think their follow-up to Ascendancy, entitled The Crusade, was a real sort of misguided misstep. It leaned more heavily on the clean singing and the more heavy metal side of Trivium, the more sort of Iron Maiden orientated side of Trivium. And I don't think it was very good. I think they were quite naive, they were quite young, and they were probably misguided and said, do this, you will be the next Metallica, do this, you will be the next Iron Maiden. They sort of came back in 2008 with the album Shogun, which is a much more prog, thrash metal leaning affair. It's an excellent album, and it felt like they were doing what they wanted to do, and it felt like they were getting back on track. This was followed up in 2010 with In Waves, which again is a really good album. It was a more stripped back affair than Shogun, more sort of down-tuned and new metal leaning, let's say. But I thought it was an excellent album, really, really big fan of In Waves. Then Vengeance Falls sort of dropped off a cliff again, let's say. They came out which came out after In Waves in 2013. And the thing about Vengeance Falls was, it was produced by David Draiman of Disturbed fame, and now the fame of having a YouTube video for the cover of Sound of Silence. But yeah, I felt like that album completely derailed them a little bit. It's I've never known an album where the production is the main point of the album. It felt so much like a Disturbed album from not only the production point of view, but the songwriting point of view as well. So yeah, it all just sounded like Disturbed, and it wasn't a very good album at all. There's a couple of good songs on there, but it wasn't great. So again, I felt like, they've gone again. Then they released Silence in the Snow, and what they needed was a big album to come back with, and they came back with this melodic, clean singing. There was no screams, no harsh vocals, it was all melody, and what ended up was quite a dull album. And I really thought at that point in time, that is it, Trivium have gone. The band we all thought they were going to be is not here anymore. And then somehow they came back in 2017 with the incredible The Sin and the Sentence, which the screams were back, the harsh vocals were back, and it felt like Trivium were back on course and they were going to be this incredible band again. And so I always approach an album for Trivium with a bit of trepidation, because they've misguided and misstepped quite a few times. Their career was really roller coastered. So I went into this album with a little bit of trepidation. So let's get on to the album and have a look at it. It opens up with the song 9, which is just a Roman numerals 9. It's their 9th studio album, so hey, 9. And it just serves as an instrumental opening, which sort of builds and segues into the first opening track, which is the title track, What the Dead Men Say. And this is a stunning song. It really showcases and builds on what they were doing on The Sin and the Sentence. They've added technicality onto the sort of ferocity and melody that Sin and the Sentence was all forged on. Any thought that Matt Heafy was going to drop the harsh singing again is completely forgotten, as he switches between the harshes and the cleans really, really well. And there's even elements of like melodic death metal going on in here, especially towards the end with these huge pummeling drums and a guitar line that could be off a Cradle of Filth album, really. The song then, the next song on the album is Catastrophist, which is the first single off the album we heard, and is obviously because of that a bit more of a straightforward metal affair. But it still does, halfway through the track, just switch and completely tear the listener apart with these huge riffs and ferocious vocals. I feel like we're falling, a life under sun of our I think the drummer is important to this band, and Trivium have always had a bit of a revolving door of drummers. And they now have Alex Bent on drums, who came in just before The Sin and the Sentence. And I think a lot of people hailed him as the missing piece of the puzzle to Trivium. And I can only agree with that. It feels like they've now got a drummer that can do the drums that they've wanted to do to showcase the technical side of the band and advance as a band the way they want to go. And he feels so vital, like a cog, like the missing cog in the piece of the machine that Trivium is. Amongst the Shadows and the Stones is probably my favourite track on this album. This is a ferocious and furious track. Heafy pushes his vocals further than he ever has before, and it's got these brilliant double kick drums and cymbal rolls through it, behind a scraping guitar and these sort of rumbling bass lines. It's great. The album probably isn't as immediate as The Sin and the Sentence was, but I've gone back to this album about 3 or 4 times already today, and I seem to be getting a lot more out of it. There's stuff in the songs that I keep thinking, I didn't hear that first time around. I seem to be getting more and more out of it the more I listen to it. There is more technicality involved than there was on The Sin and the Sentence. It feels like they've mixed other influences on this album from the past, especially the Shogun, more Shogun influenced style of Trivium, let's say. It still has the melodies on there that they've always had. A song like Bleed Into Me is the more melodic side of Trivium, which could be like taken from the Silence in the Snow kind of area of Trivium, where it has Heafy sort of crooning over this meaty bass line. And it works well, and it sort of is a rewarding drop-off in pace from the absolutely relentless assault at the start of the album. Then you've got a song like The Defiant, which harks back to the early metalcore days of Trivium, the more ascendancy style, but then lifts and soars in the chorus in all the right places. I think Sickness Into You showcases the more Shogun style of the band that I was talking about. It's an absolute monster of a track with these complete with these sort of black metal style drums, blast beats, and cymbal rolls, and Corey delivers this absolutely epic solo in it as well. That's a cracking track. The final 3 songs on the album really showcase all the different sides of Trivium brilliantly. You have the melodic Scattering the Ashes, which could be lifted from Vengeance Falls or Silence in the Snow, but a choice cut from that album, let's say. Then you've got Bending the Arc, which is this black metal influenced crunching track, which is devoid of any melody, really, and it leans heavily on the prog side of Trivium. And then at the end, you've got the pacey and blistering The Ones We Leave Behind, which is full of hooks, but it's just relentlessly fast-paced. This whole album is full of intensity. It never lets up. It's relentless in its assault, and it's brilliant for it. For the first time, I think Trivium have built on what they've done before. You've had The Sin and the Sentence, and they've looked at that and they've built on it and gone, where can we go with this? And they've advanced brilliantly as a band. I think this is better than The Sin and the Sentence. I think this is a much more technically accomplished album, and a much more it has much more of a feeling of an album than The Sin and the Sentence did. This is brilliant. It's a really, really good album, and I'm so pleased that Trivium have not done a misstep, which they have done so many times in the past. And I really hope that now, in their mid-30s, they are reaching the pinnacle of what their band can be. Let me know what you think of the album, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks very much.